So we continue our descent in this hive of wretched scum and villainy, known as DPS role. Now I already went through the melee one with great effort and suffering, because I know I am sending kids to evil, to just become worse human beings, and now I have to continue and make one for ranged. Now, before we go forward, I shall remember everyone that, again, this is just a hypothetical. The tank video and the healer video, and is actually already in the beta trying out their favorite tank that they will play lots of in Shadowlands, or their healer, but not their DPS. So we can continue this exercise in futility, since nobody will use this, in pigeonholing range specs into stereotypes that better categorize them. Are you interested in a spec that does direct DPS, dots, burst, or sustain damage maybe? What about the utility? What about their movement? Do they have a lot of instant spells? Do they have a lot of hard cast abilities and they are immobile? In the hopes that this is going to better select your possible main for Shadowlands. Assuming you would even play DPS as a main, but let's go on. Now, let's be honest, you play DPS, you're not very bright, right? Your entire existence in this game can be summarized into haha, damage meter go bzzz. And there are going to be people that are actually going to be double down on this. Not only do they want to have it easy playing DPS, but they also want to have the least amount of things to manage at all. Buffs, debuffs, dots, fuck all of that. I just want to do direct damage. I want to click a button and see the damage number, and then I want to click the next button. I don't want to worry about anything else. So for you, Marksmanship Hunter obviously is the king. Marksmanship Hunter, being a hunter, is just a melee spec that shoots from 40 yards away. It has tons of instant spells, essentially no buffs or debuffs or dots to maintain. It's extremely simple when it comes to that. After that, you can put Destruction Warlock as the next one. Destruction Warlock only has one ability, Immolate, to keep track of when it comes to dots, debuffs, buffs, management of any kind. The rest is just direct hard casted damage essentially. So that's another one for simpletons. Now if you're the opposite type, the type that has become self-aware, you realize how simple DPS is and actually kind of wants to do something that makes him believe he's actually doing something more complicated, something that he can feel satisfied in. Well, then you can play dot classes or debuff classes or buff classes, anything that makes you have to set up your damage rotation rather than just clicking and doing damage directly. In this case, you can play Shadow Priest and Affliction Warlock. They are obviously dot based. Shadow Priest has 2, Affliction Warlock has 74, and that's what they do. That's what their damage rotation is about. Maintaining and managing their debuffs and dots essentially. So if you think this is going to give you worth as a human being, then you can go for dot classes. But now, let's instead have a look at the damaged mind of a DPS and delve a little bit deeper. Try to analyze its psychosomatic issues. Some of these people, the more lost souls, led too far astray by their social identity issues or lack thereof, they have substituted common social interactions with the act of boisteringly making a statement on the damage meters of a video game as a social hierarchy power play. They pretend to be validated by this very move. And as such they will seek, they will thirst, they are almost addicted by just one thing. Burst DPS. That's all they want. They don't care about being direct damage, being dot damage, being hard, being easy. All they want is to be able to play something that allows them to get to the top of the meters. For just one pull, in one Mythic Plus. At a +8, they will deplete. But that's what they need. They are damaged, they need help, and honestly, I'm not the one to help them, so I'm gonna suggest them the strongest of these burst DPS specs. So you have Marksmanship, you have Elemental, you have Destruction Warlock. Marksmanship, I'm not even sure if it should be here, because I don't know if it's the completely broken damage they have in the beta, or if it's supposed to be like that, but ideally they do have a lot of burst, especially above 70% HP and below in execute phase. They can actually do lots of damage there. Elemental does have a lot of burst now, that Ascendance seems to be a semi-viable spec and build to build around, as well as Destruction Warlock. The Infernal is still there. They still have the ability to do tons of damage doing their Infernal window. So those are the specs you can go for if you want to go for big damage. And technically there should also be Frost Mage, but if I think marksmanship is busted right now, Frost Mage is so busted, I can't even mention it right now. Now, what about the opposite type of mental illness? Because wanting burst damage is actually healthy. You know, it's organic, it's natural, it's homegrown, it's nice to be wanting some nice healthy burst every once in a while. It's wanting too much of it that turns your brain into mush and sprouts wing and horns, and you start calling yourself XX Illidan XX. What about the opposite? Wanting no burst whatsoever. What about, rather than settling for doing, you know, 6 out of 10 damage and having burst of 9 out of 10? What about the sick people who just want 7+? You know, the people who just want to be okay at what they do, but all the time. They don't really want to have moments to shine, they don't want to be recognized. You know, they just want to be there. Well, if you're like that, if you're a mellow, quiet type of guy, then you can go for Shadow Priest or Balance Druid. Shadow Priest and Balance Druid essentially have no cooldowns, they have no burst. They have things like reworked Void Form, which is meh. Balance Druid has Celestial Alignment, which is okay, but it's nowhere near a proper burst cooldown like other specs have. They are just very, very stable. They are also going cycles. When they build up their resource and they spend it without any burst, it remains very stable, very fixed in the damage they do. So if you're like that in real life, if you wish a similar style of spec, then these two are the best for you. Now moving on, this mental issue is very, very known and common. I already mentioned it in the tanks, in the healers, and in the melee DPS. The diva is back. The attention-seeking diva, the megalomaniac, the Legends of Grandeur guy is back. The one who wants the spotlight on him. He wants to be able to do everything and be noticed by everyone because he's the one who's doing it. I'm talking about utility. Specs that can do everything, a little bit of everything, are essentially the same as the other roles. It's gonna be Balanced Druid and Elemental Shaman. Druid remains king. Druid remains the one with the battle res, you know, the one with now also Cyclone and Stampeding Roar baseline. They still have Ursul's Vortex. Balanced Druid in this case has Typhoon. Now Balanced Druid also has Treants as well for more utility. They have massive healing now with Heart of the Wild as a talent. They have insane healing if they want to. The diva is still the Druid, followed up by Shaman. Now next, on our assertion of DPS players' mental issues, we have a classic one. Everyone has actually gotten this a few times, the irresistible urge to press your spacebar and keep jumping around for no apparent reason. I'm talking about ADHD, ODD, SCT, ASD. I'm talking about this whole clump of DPS players' issues about attention disorders. Very low attention span, hyperactivity disorders, the need to always be doing something, be on the move, you know, the attention span of a goldfish, never remember what they were doing before in the first place, so they always want to be moving and doing something. Well, specs for you, if you have these many deeply rooted issues in your persona, are going to be Marksmanship Hunter and Balanced Druid. Marksmanship Hunter allows you to be the schizo clown that you are and always be on the move. There is only essentially one ability, Aim Shot, where you have to stand still, but don't worry, it's just 2 seconds, and you even have a talent to make it faster, so you are saved. And Balanced Druid is similar. Balanced Druid has Wrath and Starfire, which are hard-casted, but then Starfire, Moonfire, Star Surge and Starfall are all instant. On top of that, dropping down Starfall makes you cast on the move, so you have plenty of zooming around like a good zoomer you are. Now, when you look at the opposite, on the other hand, the problems are more of a physical nature. My diagnosis tells me that these people are more of a boomer type of cut. They are the ones that really enjoy watching a bar fill up and they wait, standing in place, not doing anything but just watching the bar. These are the type of people that enjoy hard casting abilities and not having many instant spells. They are the type of people that sort of feel lost when they try to play a range class that has a bunch of instant abilities, because they lose the flow of their casted abilities, having to constantly use something every second. They're not in melee, they don't have the attack coming through instantly, the range spell has a cast time, so they just get out of sync with their abilities when they do that from range. So these people enjoy more of a vanilla experience, almost literally. So for this type, we have, as a cure, we have Shadow Priest or Elemental Shaman. Shadow Priest obviously has the same crutch as Mistweaver Monk. Press F in the comments. They have to channel something in their core rotation. Soothing Mist for Mistweaver and Mind Flay for Shadow Priest. Mind Blast is also hard cast, and when it's instant while they are channeling Mind Flay. Vampiric Touch itself is an hard cast DOT, very annoying, so it's rather immobile. And Elemental, now granted, with the new Ascendance rework, the Ascendance Legendary, it can become quite a bit more mobile, especially the more cleave you can do, the more mobile it can be. But assuming a normal stationary Lightning Bolt rotation, it's rather immobile. So if you don't like to move too much, if you don't like to use too many instant abilities, then these are for you. As you have seen, I have not put Mage essentially anywhere. I didn't think it would fit any particular stereotype, any particular niche in here. Particularly Fire and Arcane, I think they're pretty bad right now. And Frost Mage, as I mentioned, I could have, but it's just so busted right now, it's difficult to even gauge if it's doing it because it's how it's supposed to be, or if it's doing it because it's doing broken damage. And with this, we have characterized all these range specs into nice little niches and stereotypes that could fit the best for you. Still, remember that this is all purely hypothetical and theoretical, as we all know. You have already looked at the tank video and the healer video, and you're already planning on maining something that is going to be useful for the community, and not the 700th Fire Mage decline from a Mythic Plus.